All right, it's time to get started. It's time. Let's stay as prompt as we can. Welcome, everyone. My name is Grace Ann Taylor. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator at Save Barnegat Bay. Want to thank you all so much for joining us. I'd like to take a moment and introduce some of the other folks here on the Zoom call. And of course, I'm not going to go over all the Zoom.
Oh, I got sick. Well, I didn't get sick.
Zoom etiquette. Just make sure that you are muted so that everyone has a chance to listen. We like to have open meetings, so we don't like to make webinar formats. If possible, we really like give everyone a chance to engage when it's appropriate. So go ahead and mute yourself. You're welcome to turn on your camera or not if you like. So there's a few folks on this meeting that have been integral parts of the student grant program. And while I'm giving this presentation, there are many folks that are going to jump in and have things to share. First and foremost, we have Dr. John Wennick, who is one of the principal staff members at the Marine Academy of Technology and Environmental Science. He's also a professor at Stockton and has engaged with other higher academic institutions for research he's done personally, and has mentored students across many years, different ages, and is one of our very lead people here at the Student Grant Program. So he's going to jump in here at some point to talk about different elements of the project. We also have some committee members who are part of the group that will be selecting the projects that get chosen for this year's grant program. So we have Michelle Gannon from Drexel University. And we also have Becky LeBoy from the Ocean County Soil Conservation District. We have Chris Claus, the Chief Naturalist of Ocean County Park in Lakewood. And then is there any other? Nope. Okay. So I think I have all the committee members. So that is our group of folks that are here to help guide you, help select projects, things like that. And then we have some past students on. We have Christina Fiocco. I hope I said that right. She was a member of our team last year. And then we have Rory Hogan, who was one of the students involved in our project as well. Just give me one moment. So my coworkers. John, can you text Bianca and give her the, oh, there she is. Bianca Charbonneau, she's here. She just called Britt upstairs. So we're here. Bianca is one of our committee members, and she was also a past student grant awardee. So I think we're all good now. All right. Housekeeping is, let's get started. So I would love to take a moment and ask you all where you are from. So if you go ahead and put it in the chat, I would love to see the school you're from. And if anything else is relevant, maybe you grew up in Barnegat Bay, just put a quick little blurb in the chat for us so that everyone can kind of see where you're from, if you feel comfortable sharing. Just to fill in some space here, I see Drexel. I myself went to Stony Brook University in Long Island, but I've long since graduated. We got Drexel, Stockton, University of Vermont, MIT, Rochester. Cool, we got Howell, Rhode Island, Hamilton. And for all of you folks that put your university in the chat, if you want to go ahead and put the town that you are a frequent resident of during the summer, that would help us too. Just to know where you're coming from. So we have Brick, Howell, Burlington, Arlington, Massachusetts, cool, Pennsylvania. Whoops. We got Flemington, awesome. So we have everyone coming from a really Short Hills. We have everyone coming from a really wide ranging zip codes and different schools, which feels really great. So thank you for taking a moment to share that with us. So what we're going to go over in the next hour, we're going to talk about what the Student Grant Program actually is, because it's a little weird. It's not a program that's offered in very many places, so it's kind of hard to describe when there's newbies. Who can apply, so basically who's eligible. We're going to talk about the money, because everyone wants to know about that. The important dates that are going to be relevant to you as a member of the Student Grant Program. We're going to talk about the difference between independent projects and team projects. we're going to talk about how you can get school credit for doing this. And we're going to talk about what mentors and advisors are and what you're going to need to find in the way of mentors from your own resources, as well as the ones we will provide you. We have some past awardees, which I introduced you to, and then we're going to talk about some past projects. If you are navigating from a laptop computer, go ahead and use the hyperlink at the bottom. I put it in the chat a few times now, but it's basically the Save Barnegat Bay website with going to the student grant page specifically. If you're on a laptop and you want to navigate with your phone, go ahead and use the QR code. Please follow along in the application while we're going over this, so that if you have any questions, you can go through the web page as we're talking about each thing and make sure you understand all the aspects. So what is the student grant program? As with a lot of wonderful scholarship programs, we have a wonderful person who had the idea to begin caring about young people in the space of science on Barnegat Bay. So I just pulled a quote of Pete McLean, sorry. He was a wildlife biologist. He was a TV personality. He was a writer. He was a photographer, a hunter, a fisher, and he lived for more than 80 years. And every breath he took, it sounds like, from what I understand of Pete, he cared about protecting Barnegat Bay, but more than that, he cared about mentoring people, and not just students, but people, and helping them understand their role in the space. And so he's pretty integral for all of us that do work in Barnegat Bay, but I'll pass it to John if you want to say a few things about Pete and his origin and reason for starting this project.
Thanks, Grace. Yeah, the program is named after Pete. Pete McLean was the first person to coordinate something that he thought was important, called Endangered and Non-Game Species Program. At the time, it was with Fish, Game, and Wildlife, so they had that in their title. And Pete found it really important to protect certain habitats as well. So he was one of the people that were almost instrumental in bringing back the osprey. Him and his team brought them back to New Jersey by relocating eggs and then hatching them out and placing the chicks in osprey nests, and then starting to populate areas with osprey, and then also creating those osprey nesting platforms. So he did that with osprey. He also worked with trying to bring back peregrine falcon back in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Both populations were really low. But more importantly, Pete was the kind of person that just got things done. So one of the things that he wanted to do prior to his passing was that he wanted to get more young people involved in research, but more significantly, working within the Barnegat Bay watershed and giving back in some way so that they can learn, but at the same point contribute to Barnegat Bay, and also help to build resumes and research experience and tie in with mentors and connections and networking. So this was all part of Pete's ongoing and always ever present, trying to develop, more and more within the Bay to kind of pass it on. So he, started this program, really got a group together. And from there, we're kind of carrying on Pete's, tradition with this program. So this program is really an honor of him and his ability to want to involve young people and educate, and also provide experience and kind of learn more and more about, what we're doing in Barnegat Bay. So we'll learn as we go on, from here, and then some of the projects that are involved and stuff like that. But that's a great picture there with Pete, working with a young osprey and getting some young person involved, whether it be banding or just kind of learning about them. That was kind of like what he was all about. Thanks, Grace Ann.
No problem. I didn't put this officially in a slide, but the student grant program has been successfully funding undergraduate students to do research on Barnegat Bay since 2007. So we've funded nearly 100 students in that time and have given out thousands of dollars to put towards this effort. And then in addition to that, we've also been able to see larger research initiatives take place based on questions and research that students have done. So while the student grant program only lasts 2 months during the summer, some of the questions and data that are collected during this time can influence larger research topics and questions across the watershed. So the work you're embarking on is really very important. So the student grant program is, that's what we've named it, but truly it's a research project. So for those of you who've engaged in science fair projects as a younger person, for those of you undergraduate students that might be volunteering in a lab, who might be engaging in research projects of your own, if you've had the opportunity, maybe you went to a vocational school and you've had the opportunity in high school to do one of these big science fairs like the Jersey Shore Science Fair or some others. This student grant program is basically a research project. So you're going to be producing an academic paper. You're going to get a poster to present on. You're going to do an oral presentation. You're going to be able to work with a mentor. And all of this research has to happen within the Barnegat Bay watershed or a scope that includes Barnegat Bay. So just kind of trying to demystify what the program is actually doing. So you're going to collect data. Well, before you collect data, you're going to propose, you're going to ask a question, propose a hypothesis, make a plan for collecting that data. You're going to collect that data, you're going to analyze that data, and then you're going to discuss that data just like you would in the scientific process of any other project you might have done in school. Who's eligible to apply? If you are a senior in high school and you are graduating this year, you are eligible to apply. If you are going to be enrolled in an academic institution of, an undergraduate program next fall. So you are eligible to apply. Undergraduate students, you are all eligible to apply. Undergraduate students that may be graduating this May, and this is your last summer as an undergraduate student, you are still eligible to apply. As soon as you are completely enrolled and engaged in your graduate program, you are no longer eligible to apply for this program. So what is the grant? Let's get to the money first, because that's the part that everyone wants to know about. It's an academic grant. It's confused often because a lot of folks think that this money is supposed to be used to execute the project itself. That is not the case. The fact is that this money is for you to spend how you see fit. And I put some options on the left of things you could possibly decide to spend it on, but you could buy a really expensive pair of shoes and we wouldn't have anything to say about it because you spend the money however you want. The money is distributed $1,000 to each team project member. So if you are on a team, which we'll talk about the difference in a moment, if you're on a team, you'll receive $1,000 at the end of the project. If you are on an independent project, meaning you came up with your own methods and procedure and things, that you will receive $1,500 at the end of the project. The full student grant award is received at the end of the program. We will give you a few dollars to begin with to help pay for gas and things, but generally the grant is distributed at the very end of the program. Sorry, everybody, there's a little bit of confusion with the Zoom links. I'm just gonna give this to you. If you could copy and paste that and email it. Thank you. Awesome. All right, so again, the money is not to be spent on executing the student grant project. So the project itself, the supplies needed, anything you might have to buy to execute the science, you should not be spending this grant money on that. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Important dates. I go over the important stuff in the beginning because I just want to be completely transparent and clear about expectations. So again, this is an application process. Of course, you can apply for this program. There is a possibility that your project or application may not be accepted as the program becomes more competitive. But I do like to make sure that if you are applying, that you know clearly the dates that are expected of you, so that if for some reason you know for sure you can't make it, we're not taking a spot from someone who probably could. Applications for this program are due on March 24th by 5 o'clock. And the application is on our website, which we'll go over in a few minutes. The notification to you that you got accepted to the program will happen on April 7th or in and around that date. Tentatively, we'll have an orientation meeting on May 16th. That could change, but the orientation meeting is for everyone to meet each other. And then in the mid-June is when we have a midpoint presentation. During this time, we're going to ask you to practice your oral presentation skills. You'll get to address any major questions you might be having about collecting data. We'll review everything you've collected thus far and make sure that you're on the right track. Tentatively, August 11th will be the final presentation. Unfortunately, we can't know those exact dates because what we try to do is pair each specific topic project with a relevant event happening at Save Barnegat Bay. For instance, we had a jellyfish open house. So we wanted the jellyfish water quality team to present during that date. And then we had students from the water quality team from the rally project working at a rally event. So we'll talk about that to come, but just so you know, I know that last 2 weeks of August can get really dicey for a lot of college students going back for band camp and RA and different extracurriculars that you might be engaged in for whatever reason. So I just wanted to be clear that that first 2 weeks of August, we're still engaged in the program. Your final written research report will be due on August 18th. Doesn't matter what happens before or after that, that date will not change. You'll be expected to submit your report, but ideally by August 11th, you would have already had your poster done. So the written report is really just grammatical corrections, final tweaks, things of that nature. I'm just going to keep rolling here to stay on time, but if there's any pressing questions, just go ahead and throw them in the chat and I'll see if we can wait till later or do it now. So there are different kinds of projects you can apply for when thinking about joining the student grant program. So independent projects are projects that you say, I would like to come up with my own ideas or work independently. And in this case, Save Barnegat Bay partners and groups within our watershed have raised their hand and said, I have a project idea. And if you provide me with a student grant awardee, we can help that student work through this topic. So you're still working on your own. You're still, in a lot of cases, coming up with your own hypothesis and your own procedure. With the guidance of these other projects. So it's a little confusing because while you're still independent, you are kind of being guided by these other topics. So Reclaim the Bay is a nonprofit here in the Barnegat Bay watershed. They have specifically funded one student grant awardee for this year. So it's pre-funded and we don't have an applicant for it yet. So you can click on that description on our website page, read about the different things that they're looking to have a student grant work on. And then they will, during your application process, we can walk you through some more of the building out a proposal. John Winnick wanted to discuss the independent projects for the CNETL student grant position.
Yeah, we at Save Barnegat Bay, we're working on a couple of projects, one of which being the Bay Nettle issue in Barnegat Bay. And that grant position could be an independent project because there is, we'll talk about team down the line, but it could be an independent project that addresses some type of investigation that's related to the Bay Nettle project. In the past, we've had students that looked at the settlement of these Bay Nettle polyps, and then also other organisms that we call fouling organisms. We won't get too much into that. And that was part of the project. One dealt with photography, another dealt with like identification of specific organisms that would settle in relationship to when these bay nettles or jellyfish, polyps would settle. And they qualified as independent projects overall. So we are still in the midst of that grant with the nettles. So there are some questions that we're working with Dr. Paul Bologna at Montclair State University and also with the Berkeley Township Underwater Search and Rescue Group, hoping to answer some more questions. So if anyone's interested, we could have a meeting about that and kind of discuss that later on. Thanks, Grace Ann.
So you'll find on the student grant application page that we've provided 2 different applications, and under the one that says independent project, you'll find this exact list of PDFs that you can click on, open, and read about. You'll find a research paper rubric, which is a rubric for how the committee will read your proposal. So gives you a guide for how to write your proposal. And then we're going to talk about mentors in a bit. I just put in the chat the YouTube link that's visible on our slide right now. That I'm not going to keep copy and pasting the YouTube links, but if you go to that link, you'll find a playlist full of all the student grant projects that have been recorded and posted on YouTube. We've had many that aren't, but at least one example of every single project is up there. So the one you can see a screenshot of on the right is a young woman that was working on the settling plates, and she independently worked with her university and another person that was studying a different aspect of the settling plates. And so she was able to create her own independent question to be asked, and that was relevant to the work her grad student she was working beneath was working on, as well as what she was working on. So you can catch all that information on the YouTube channel and see her project and see an example of an independent project. So when you go to the application page on our website, you're going to need to select a pre-existing project idea from the list, or completely independently ask your own question and develop your own hypothesis and proposal, which you are welcome to do as long as your question and data collection happen within the Barnegat Bay watershed. Just as a quick little tidbit, the watershed includes all of the land area that drains into Barnegat Bay, going as far west in the north as Six Flags Great Adventure, and as far south as Little Lake Harbor down on the east side, and then Great Bay Boulevard on the west side. So you can look up where the boundaries of the Barnegat Bay watershed are. But for those of you who are maybe from a different area, it's mostly within Ocean County, which is obviously the Jersey Shore. So just giving you an idea of where your project needs to land. You're going to need to secure a mentor or an advisor at the school you're coming from, so your undergraduate school. For those of you who might be high school seniors, we might be able to help you if we know what school you've applied for. We know many people at different schools. There might be a science teacher at your high school who could be your mentor or advisor. We'll get through that in a moment. You're going to have to write your proposal. And again, all that information is on the application page, and you're going to have to submit it by March 24th. So that is everything to do with an independent project, at least an overview. Then we have what's called a team project. And one of the biggest misconceptions about the team projects is that you have to create your own team. That's not the case. In this case, the team projects are pre-existing projects that occur every year. So the Sedge Island Marine Conservation Zone, you'll see it shortened as SIMCZ, S-I-M-C-Z. That project has gone on for many years now, and each year students go out and collect samples, which we'll go over in a moment. The water quality team there's two water quality teams. There's the sea nettle team, which John was alluding to a little bit before, talking about looking at water quality in regards to sea nettles. And then we have the water quality team that's looking at the parameters to do with pathogen pollution. Again, you'll find last year's water quality presentation on our YouTube channel. And then we're just going to break out really quickly to talk about the team projects so that you have a better idea of what the expectations would be of you if you applied for these teams. So the Sedge Island Marine Conservation Zone is located on the backside of Island Beach State Park, just north of the Barnegat Inlet. So you will be expected to drive into Island Beach State Park for sampling. And then the sampling generally happens in mid-July for about 2 weeks. You'll be going out every day. But the rest of the summer, you're not really out doing a lot of sampling. So quick tangent, I get this question a lot. Students will ask us if you can hold a full-time job, part-time job, summer classes, other commitments. For the most part, I think the answer is yes. You are able to do other things in your summer. This does not have to be your whole summer engagement. But I will say that if you're on these specific teams, you will be expected to participate on the days the team is expected to participate. So in the case of a summer job, if you're on the SIMCZ team, maybe you're taking those 2 weeks, two like sets of weekdays off during those sampling days. And then the other days you're working, the rest of you and your team are working around your work schedule. And then we'll talk about some of the other commitments for the other ones. This project is in the water. in the bay early in the morning. So you have to be okay with being wet and handling live fish. And then there's some large equipment you have to be able to kind of move around, nothing too crazy. Don't worry, you're not like lifting dumbbells or anything. But you're going to be sampling juvenile fish and invertebrates in the Barnegat Bay, checking out their size, and then recording what you find. John, did you want to pop in? Oh, okay. So that is the Set John Island Marine Conservation Zone team project. Again, you can find all the past papers for that on our website, and you can find past presentations for that on our YouTube channel. Another team project is our Rally for Barnegat Bay. This project specifically looks at pathogen pollution in the basin of the Toms River, which is surrounded by 6 towns. So just in the region of Toms River, Island Heights, South Toms River, Pine Beach, Beechwood, Ocean Gate. So those are the sampling locations. So you're going to have to be able to drive to those locations in your independent vehicle. And then you will be bringing the samples that you collect, water samples, back to the lab at the Eco Center. And sampling generally, John has scheduled it to happen usually on Mondays or Tuesdays. And then you come back in a day or two later to read the samples after they've had time to process in the lab. And generally that's happening on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. On really crazy weeks, it might bleed into Thursday or Friday, but those days you're generally getting up very early in the morning, sampling once a week, twice a week, coming in and reading the samples early in the morning. So as long as the work is done, the rest of your day and the rest of your week is free and open. So you're going to be testing water quality parameters that have to do with pathogens. So you're talking about bacteria, fecal coliform, which is bacteria, nitrogen, phosphorus, dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, things like that. And then similarly, there's another water quality team which works in looking at lagoon communities. So lagoons are where we have these neighborhoods that look like labyrinth mazes of where people drive their boats up against their house in Barnegat Bay. In those lagoons, we find that there's a ton of what's called bay nettle jellyfish. And I should probably change the name of the team project to say bay nettle, but that is a species of jellyfish. They're very similar. And those locations are going to be located within the northern part of Barnegat Bay. So it could be in Brick, could be in Toms River, could be in Bayville. So you're going to have to be able to drive to those locations and then bring those samples back to the lab in Toms River. Again, the sampling days and reading days are generally aligned with the other team. Because the lab needs to work with everybody and it's not a big lab. So there's got to be enough kind of systems in place. And then, like I said, you're going to be testing for similar parameters, but you might focus in on a few other things like nitrogen loading and things like that. On the right side, the image looks a little like there's a lot going on, but there are students presenting their student grant projects on specifically the Bay Nettle independent projects and the water quality team. And what you see happening on the table is Montclair State University, Dr. Paul Bologna, he brought samples and microscopes for folks to come and look at live samples of not only jellyfish, but also other invertebrates that settle in the same kind of ecosystem on these hard plastic surfaces and bulkhead surfaces in these lagoon communities. And so everyone's at the dive house, which is why it looks kind of funny. It's kind of like a EMT building or, a firehouse, if you will. And so everyone's there kind of working together to share what they found on their settling plates and collaborate with the students and the community. So that was one of those events where we had a student grant presentation specifically for that topic and that day and that place, so that the target audience, the folks that might be interested in your work, are there to listen to your project. So I thought it was a good time to invite Christina to talk about her experience with the team Sea Nettle project. So Christina, if you want to pop on, maybe share a little bit about what you liked about the program. You can also share what you didn't like. I appreciate honesty. We appreciate honesty. And you can just kind of describe what your pictures have.
Sure. So I worked with a team of 3 of us in total, and we went to Bayville and Green Island. And within the 2 places, we took water samples from each site, and we took about 11 from Bayville and 5 from Green Island. And then we would go to the lab and test them. And at each site, so in the first picture, you can see a YSI meter, which we would put into the water to obtain data. while also taking the samples in the Whirlpack bags that's right next to it to bring back to the lab. And then the picture next to it is just showing that when you get the water sample, you use the sampling pole to avoid any contamination. And then the picture next to it is a nettle that we did see. Throughout the whole project, it was very interesting to see. We started the beginning of June and we didn't see any nettles until like mid-July. But then the last 2 weeks from mid to end July, we saw one almost every day sampling. Well, at least one. We saw multiple on many days. But it was very cool to see the different things. And then even while testing, to see the changes in from one lagoon system to the next, there's just one block over, or even from Bayville to Green Island. And it was very cool that you got to do your own research, but you were provided with everything that you needed. And if you had any questions, you had some guidance, but you were also on your own to do the study yourself and learn yourself. It was a very great experience overall. I definitely recommend. There is just, you do have to be cautious because when we first went to begin sampling, we didn't realize as much as how people would almost want to test you because they were confused on why you're in their neighborhood and why you were walking on their property. We do get permission before going, but sometimes neighbors are nosy. So you do just have to be prepared on why you're there and have information on the program to ensure that everyone feels okay while you're there.
That's a really good point and an experience I forget that you always have, but just to kind of make you feel, if you're new to this whole world of it, we do prepare all of our students with our business cards and information. So during the orientation meeting, you'll be given all the information you need. And we never expect our students to have all the answers. You're of course students. So if there's ever something that you're not sure about and someone asks you at any point during your experience applying while you're in the program or even after, you're always, always, always welcome to hand them our business card and say, I don't know, ask Grace Ann. You are not required to know everything. But that is a really good point. When you're out in the public wearing these bright yellow vests, you know, you're going into these neighborhoods, people are like, what are they doing? And they're worried. So good feedback. Thank you, Christina, for sharing your experience there. And Christina's not going anywhere. So if you have questions for her, we can have her pop back on. All right, so if you're looking to apply for a team project, please select just one team. Often applicants will be like, I'll join any team. And that's really hard for us on the other side when we're trying to select people. I know you want to put your eggs in as many baskets as possible, but it really helps us to know what you're most interested in, what you think you can reasonably succeed at doing. We want to make sure that we're putting you in a place that you can, complete the task. We don't want you to apply for a team and then figure out that you don't actually have the skill sets. We had one individual who was like, I cannot be on a boat for 4 hours. I'll get very, uncomfortable. And so obviously then we knew, going forward, the Sedge Island Marine Conservation Zone project was not appropriate for that applicant. And so, it helps us to know in the beginning. You're going to need to secure an advisor at the college or your home school. So again, I keep saying we're going to talk about this because we're going to go over it. But even though you are a part of our pre-baked team, you are still going to need guidance. And so we are asking you to secure an advisor or a mentor at your home school. They may not have to do as much because we do have folks on our side, on the committee side, that lead these projects. But it definitely helps when you're going through such a rigorous program. You're being asked to do this research so quickly and analyze the data so quickly that you have different resources you can reach out to. The short essay is all the instructions for that are on our application page. There's often some confusion. It is not a proposal. It is just a little writing piece that provides us with an opportunity to see if you can write clearly, if you have passion in the way that we need you to be a person that we want to select for this project. So it doesn't require you to write a whole proposal, but we want you to be able to submit something, right? So that is our way of allowing you to apply for a team that already exists and let us still see your ability to apply. And then of course, the same deadline applies. It's 5 p.m. on March 24th. Something I didn't mention for either of the projects is that you'll also need to supply your letter of recommendation, your transcripts, things like that. That is across the board the same for everybody. So I didn't, outline it here, but those things will be expected as well. So school credit, you can get school credit for this work, which in some cases might actually cost you more money because you are technically, in a lot of cases, buying another set of class credits. So it depends on your school, it depends on your program, but it can count as an independent study. It can count as a, possibly an internship class. It really depends, for each of you individually. But I just wanted to ask Rory to pop on and share his experience with that. He went to Stockton University and was one of our student grant awardees.
Yeah, so you can absolutely get school credit for it. I'm going to tell you though, if you're thinking of applying and you're interested in getting school credit, definitely be diligent and get a jump start on it now. Just because I know some people said they went to Stockton, so it wasn't an issue with them. But if you're going to a university that's maybe farther out, hasn't worked with Save Barnegat Bay before, they're going to want more information on the program so they can approve it for your credit. But with Stockton, they've had multiple students work with Save Barnegat Bay. So if you go to that school, it's not a problem. It'll get approved right away. But you can absolutely get credit for it. My program required an internship, so I was able to fulfill that. I got 2 college credits for it. But you can always, I know Ocean County College, which I transferred from, they had it as an elective. You could do an internship. So if you're in that situation, you can apply it as well. One of the things I wanted to touch on that Grace Ann mentioned, though, was with having to pay for tuition credits, talk to your school because they can possibly apply those credits to, say, your fall semester, so you can still get financial aid towards those. So you're not losing your entire grant money that you're getting. I know when I first got at Stockton, they put me in for the summer semester, so I was going to have to pay out of pocket. But then when they put it through to the fall, things like New Jersey Stars and other scholarships were able to just cover the credit for it. So I didn't actually have to pay any additional tuition for that, which was nice. So, but you can absolutely get credit for it. Just talk to your academic advisor, preceptor, explain the program, and you can probably, they mentioned union advisor, your preceptor could probably even be your advisor for the program. So definitely worth exploring though.
And did you want to share a little tidbit about your experience with the program just quickly so we know if you hated it, you should probably share that now so all the 22 participants can run away.
No, I did the program twice. Once out of high school, I did the SimZ team. And then I believe going into my senior year of college, I did the water quality E. coli study. So they're both great projects. They're actually, you can apply them a lot to your classes as well. I know with Stockton, we were always talking about watershed management, and E. coli and runoff were a huge part of that. And it also looks really good for grad school. So I do the master's program for coastal zone management at Stockton. And this was specifically when they were talking to me, something they were interested in seeing. So definitely save all of your abstracts or any materials for this because it is something that they do find very interesting. So it was definitely a great program.
That's really cool. Thanks so much for sharing that, Rory. And one of the really, really nice things is to hear student grant students from the past come into the current times and come into our meetings or show up later and say, wow, the student grant program has become a part of research that I've been working on. And in some cases, it's currently getting reviewed into peer-reviewed research, which is very cool. In some cases, like Rory's, it turns out it was, a positive aspect of his application to grad school. So it's really cool. We kind of see it, we run it, and then we run another program next year with a whole new group of students. But to have you all come back and share those tidbits really makes it feel worth it.
Okay.
So I've been.
Grace Ann, could I jump in real quick? I'm gonna have
add something too real quick.
Dr. Bianca Charbonneau. I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh yeah. Just to jump on real quick about what Rory was saying. We've had students in the past come back and talk to us about their experiences, and this has been a major talking point in a lot of their interviews for jobs and for other programs that they've applied in the future, because it's a grant that you are earning, and that's kind of rare at the undergraduate level. And then the other thing is, one of the students in the SIMSI team last year, he was able to present the research at another forum independently this year at a symposium that his advisor kind of steered him into. So it does lead you down a lot of different directions that you don't think you're going to go down. So, yeah, John.
Yeah, I wanted to have Dr. Bianca Charbonneau, who was an independent team member, just kind of share a little bit about that. And she definitely can actually speak a little bit to the mentor aspect of this as well. So Bianca, welcome.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for attending. So I was a student twice, a student for an independent project, and I actually worked with Dr. Winnick. And I did 2 separate independent projects and then became a mentor on a different independent project another year. And I just wanted to speak to that experience a bit. I was an ecology major as an undergrad, and I did an undergrad thesis, but I wasn't marine related. So I had marine interest, but I taught myself the things I needed to learn about, the system that I wanted to learn about, which was dunes at the time, and applied to do an independent dune study. The initial application is really, for an independent project, is really going to be geared on what the research idea is, like how sound it is, what your plan is for collecting that data, and who you're going to work with, which can be someone at your university and or some of our board members. But I've published 2 of those, one of those studies now, and another turned into a dissertation chapter, and I'm still working on finishing. But that's to say that while the team, both the team and the independent projects are very impressive, you will learn different things as a result of applying to one versus the other, where the independent project, as it is stated in the name, is independent. You are leading the research, and you should expect in that way that by doing that you are going, no one's going to be keeping on you to make sure, hey, did you meet up do your collection at this date like you're supposed to? There's no other team members that you are letting down if you don't do that. You're kind of letting yourself down by not collecting your data. And you have more freedom in that regard too for the independent projects, because again, it's what you want to study. And so if you can think of a creative idea on your own or with somebody at your university for a project that's directly in the Barnegat Bay or directly related to Barnegat Bay, we would encourage you to try to expand that idea and apply for an independent project. And you should reach out to any of us if you're hesitant to apply or nervous, because it's a little scary to go independent versus joining a team. But I don't want anybody to shy anybody away from that. And my project snowballed into a master's dissertation and a PhD. So it really can take you places. And the skills that you learn from fieldwork in particular as an individual are, I would say, invaluable in terms of time management and problem solving on the fly. So happy to answer any more questions related to that.
So I'm going to call on you again, Bianca, here in a second. So we've been pushing this. We're going to talk about it later, this mentor advisor thing. We've mentioned it a few times. It's a little weird and confusing depending on the type of project you're applying for. But let me just define who is reasonable to be a mentor or an advisor for these kinds of projects. It could be it should be an educator. It could be a scientist. Scientists who may not teach is fine too, if you can find one who would like to work with you, but it's rare. It's almost certainly going to be a professor or a teacher. And generally they need to have some kind of scientific data analysis experience. Generally the people you're going to be asking will have those things, so it shouldn't be too hard. We don't need to see their resume or anything, but just so they're going to be expected to help you get through your scientific data analysis. So, you could ask your history teacher, but it's probably more effective to ask your science teacher. They are going to agree to work with you. Now, depending on the type of project you apply for will depend on how much they need to be hands-on. In the case of the team, I'll start with the team one because that's the easier one. You need to have an advisor. You need to have someone who's vouching for you to say that this student is going to be an active member of this team, is going to participate in an equal and engaging fashion. that you might turn back to that advisor and say, can you help me with these few very small things? But for the most part, their time commitment is going to be pretty minimal. In the case of the independent project, however, that advisor or mentor needs to be very hands-on with you, because in that case, you're going to be asking them guidance on how to construct your procedure, how to go about collecting your data, which is a part of your procedure. And then once you collect that data, you can't just stick it on a poster and say, I found 5 clams and 20 pieces of eelgrass. You need to analyze that data and look for patterns. So you're going to need to be able to run some simple statistical analysis tests. For those of you who may not have been in statistic classes yet, those are the types of things you're going to need guidance on from that advisor or mentor. And I'll just call on you, Bianca, if you want to kind of chime in here and maybe speak to some of the other attributes a mentor should have if they're helping you with an independent project.
Yeah, ideally your mentor will be able to guide you in some major aspect of what it will take to complete the project. That being, writing the final project and or making the poster, doing your statistics, or even just helping with scientific design. That's really important too, because like Grace Ann was mentioning, some of the different projects have been published. And one thing that will preclude you from potentially doing that is not having a sound scientific design or a large enough sample size in your design to actually draw statistical results from. And so your mentor should really be someone who you're comfortable having a conversation with about your ideas, and then having a working relationship to improve, how you're going about the scientific method, how you're applying it to your project, and then how you're actually presenting those results in a way that will reach a broader audience. Because at the end, you're not just talking to, a handful of scientists, you're talking to community members, you're talking to policymakers, stakeholders. And so the way you present the research has to be broad and not full of jargon. So again, yeah, reach out if you have any questions about mentors. Like I said, I've served as a mentor for folks. Grace Ann mentioned it can be rare to have a mentor that's not at your school. One way that's great to potentially find a mentor beyond maybe emailing some of us is, if you're interested in a specific topic, do a Google Scholar search to see who's doing research in that area, and then limit it by the geographic range. Maybe you can find somebody at Rutgers doing that research. Maybe you can find independent websites such as myself. I'm not in academia right now. I'm a postdoc. So I guess I would be one of those unicorns, but we're out there. So yeah, thanks everybody.
I love that. So Bianca's totally right. If you're savvy, which Bianca is, you can absolutely find your way to success with this project. So please don't feel like if you don't have someone immediately in your phone book that, this project is closed off to you. We can help you figure it out, but you have to be willing to figure it out. We can't just supply you with someone out of the blue. You really need to have an idea of who you might need to be connected with and things like that. One of the biggest challenges we've had is students will get all the way to the end of the summer, and it's the last week or two when they're supposed to be analyzing their data with statistical tests. And some of our committee members who are already engaged with other students are now overburdened because they're trying to get these last few students through the statistical process. And it's a lot, when really, if you'd had a mentor on the other side, we'd have shared tasks, tasks that are being shared, and then you basically come out with a better product. So it's really important to secure this in the beginning of your application process so that by the end of your project, you're really just smooth sailing into the end, where you're going to be able to not have this hanging over your head. You're going to submit your paper and then be able to go on to your next year of college without having this kind of these loose ends of like, I don't know how to analyze this data and submit my report and do all that. So our committee is made up of many different professionals, and many of them are willing to be mentors, but don't have their own projects. So for instance, Bianca is one of those examples. Becky LeBoy works at the Ocean County Soil Conservation District, and specializes in both soils on land and soils underwater, and has professionals in her office that can help guide you. So if you're interested in something to do with plants and soil, she could be a resource to kind of find a mentor. And there's not a project already that, has to do with that. So reach out to us if and you can see all this on our website. All of our committee members and their job titles are already published on our website. So you can go there and see if anyone might be a good fit. In finding your correct match, we've supplied you with a PDF document on the application that says what some of the duties of a mentor would be. And so the link for that is right underneath Jason doing the C-Star jump. So you can go check that out on our website so that you know exactly what they're being expected to do. So we kind of heard from some of our students, but again, we've had such an amazing group of people who've come through our program, and now we're blessed to have people like Bianca who've stuck with this program. She's been a student now twice and has now been, an active member of our committee and has guided more students since. And you can see all their kind of little tidbits about their exciting adventures during this program. Some of the pictures at the end of the summer are pretty exciting. And of course, that one with the terrapin is hard to beat. So, and just as a thing, Bianca studied dune grass. So she's not just standing on the dunes for no reason. That was part of her research. So I'm not going to click through. Oh, I am going to click through these. So I'm going to go over to, of course not. Why? Never mind. I was hoping to show you some pictures of the past student grant projects. If I can do this quickly, I will do it. And if not, then we'll abandon ship. We got it. All right, so I'm going to mute this. So in this video, hopefully you can see this. This is the Sedge Island Marine Conservation Zone team. They're throwing a big metal cylinder into the water, and then they're going to collect all the samples out of the cylinder. So you saw some imagery of that throughout the PowerPoint presentation. And then I'll just pop over to this right here is the Rally for Barnegat Bay project. So this is the student grant students aren't in this image exactly, but just this gives you some context. That project, you would be contributing to research that's helping us find and fix pathogen pollution in the Toms River. So in some cases, the infrastructure that carries the poop to the wastewater treatment plant is breaking. And so we had a poop sniffing dog named Remy, who you can see here. She was working with the Public Works Departments, Clean Ocean Action, which is our partner on this group, and Save Barnegat Bay staff to find and sniff out pathogen pollution. And what you would be doing during your student grant project would be to sample locations of the river that you can see behind these folks. And you would be contributing to basically validating what the dog found in her search for pathogen pollution. So, I'm kind of broad reaching here, I'm kind of going over things quickly, but these are some of the things that you can contribute to as a member of the student grant program. You can check out our YouTube channel. Again, the playlist is here for all of the student grant projects that we've recorded. So go ahead and check those out if you're interested. And then our application page, of course, is at our website, savebarnegatbay.org/educate/student grant. You can navigate to that anytime. And then if you are interested, this is our community water quality lab. It's here at the Eco Center, which is basically an old house, and we retrofitted one of the old offices to be a water quality lab. And you can see that everyone's in there running samples and learning. And then we even at times get to have high school students in there giving you an extra set of hands, learning themselves, things like that. So it's a pretty cool program. And I'm sure I'm forgetting to share something, but I wanted to pause and ask if anyone had any questions. We went over a lot. And you can unmute here. You don't have to put it in the chat. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, actually. While I buy some time. Oh, well, John, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying that if anybody, wants to, as you get back into next semester, just make sure you approach your, advisor and or mentor. Like, once again, it's more of an advisor to kind of recommend you for a team project, but then a mentor that you could kind of bounce those ideas to help you with proposal writing and so forth. So, definitely as the semester starts to kick off for the spring 2023, if you're considering this, try to get a good start on it and, get into it as early as you can before the academics start to ramp up and, your mentor / advisor at the school, get a little bit busy as well. So this might be a good time to bounce it off. And Bianca kind of offered too. She does a lot of work with dune ecology, coastal ecology, plant, ecology, especially coastal plants. So she's offering a lot of her expertise. And we have a number of people on the committee, that have gone through the process or helped to mentor students. I know Dr. Michelle Gannon's on here as well. And she was really served as a mentor or co-mentor to a student who recently did a biofouling project a couple of summers ago. And that was an independent project, and it was an excellent project on carbon sequestration. So, some talented people. I know Becky LeBoy from the Soil District, Chris Claus, local naturalist here who has a lot of expertise, Jason Kelsey, who's been leading the SIMSI project. We can go, on. So, feel free to just, reach out, ask questions, or grab some email addresses and contacts and go from there.
I'm looking at I've been talking, I didn't see Dr. Paul Bologna popped on
yeah,
from
Dr.
Montclair
Bologna.
State University. He leads on the jellyfish
Oh, very
project.
cool.
Very cool. We have Chris Blaine, who is hopefully a graduate candidate. He's working on applying for graduate school and hoping to get to do research in Barnegat Bay. So he's in the purgatory land. He's trying to bridge the gap between undergraduate and graduate, and participating on our grant committee. And so thank you for that. And then I'm just checking to make sure there's no one else we missed. Yeah. So if you go to our and I'll just, hopefully, if you have questions, stop me here, of course, pop in, but I'll just say the application is, technically it's open. There might be some changes to it, but if you apply before I change it, I'll let you know, it'll be fine. But our website is kind of in a little bit of flux, but everything is there. On the front page, you'll see when you navigate to the home page, you can click the word, here, I'll go backwards. So if you go to just savebarnegatbay.org, click the word educate on the banner here, scroll down, and there's a bunch of cool tiles. And then there's one with this young, I love her sunglasses in this picture. She's got the YSI and she's like, this is cool. So you click on that tile and then you navigate to our student grant home page. On the front here, we've recorded a video of me talking about how to apply. So if you have any questions, you'll be able to refer to this video that we're recording right now, as well as the one here on the home page. You can click through this button to see the application. I'll do that in a moment. These are the past projects. So all these little white tiles are past papers. Don't pay attention to the date here. That's just when it was uploaded. Within clicking on it, you'll find out when the project was executed. So you can see all kinds of team projects, independent projects, things like that. You can click on the names and faces of our past awardees and see what schools they went to, what their ideas and what they were studying. And then you can scroll all the way down to see who is on our student grant committee. So I would highly recommend taking a glance at that to see who the professionals might be that you might like to engage in. Some of these people are off the table because they're busy with the team projects, but some people are very open and willing to be your mentor. These folks here are engaged with our program and help us do different things when appropriate. So you can look at that list as well, but they might not be engaged every day. And then of course, we've got our little blurb about Pete McLean and the story of the beginning of the project. And then I'll just click on the application. You can see that it's broken up into two pieces. So make sure that you're filling out the correct application. So if you're filling out a team project, make sure you take some time to decide which team you'd like to join, select one, and then fill out your whole application. It's all here. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any issues for technical reasons or questions or anything, you can email me. If you're applying for the independent project, you're going to obviously do that here. And then remember, all the things you need are here. So this is the Reclaim the Bay independent work that they're looking to fund one student to do. We have the student grant for sea nettles or bay nettles, the rubric for how to make a proposal. We've got some mentor duties, some expectations of the person who would be helping you through that research. Here is the submission guideline for your project proposal. And then if you scroll all the way down, here's some more expectations, important dates. So don't worry, it's all there. And then I'm not sure how this got bumped all the way to the bottom, but it's a little nugget of really valuable information that I'm going to have to move and make a bigger obvious thing. But Bianca provided with, you know, out of the kindness of her heart, her very own proposal to use as an example here of how to write a proposal for the independent project. So if you're questioning still how to do that, you can read Bianca's proposal about dune grass and dune accretion, which has to do with placement and viability of grasses on dunes.
Just jumping on that real quick. When I wrote that, prior to writing that, I had known nothing about dunes other than that you don't walk on them. Dr. Winnick, as I said before, was my mentor. He let me bounce all the questions I had off of him, but I ultimately just jumped into the library reading things to put that together. So don't let, feeling like you're not currently prepared or educated on a topic right now preclude you from diving into something you're interested in, because you can learn it.
All right, so I think we've gone over reasonably everything we can in an hour's worth of time about how to apply for the program, what it's about, experiences, things like that. So if anyone has any questions, I would encourage you to ask them now, because the application process is going to fly by. I know it seems like it's far away, but your semesters are going to begin again, and this is going to be in the back of your head until March 23rd, and then you're going to go, oh shoot, and you're going to try to email me on March 23rd. You're going to have all these questions, and I'm not going to have answers for you in less than 12 hours. So if you want, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. I am the link to all the folks on this call. So if you're interested in getting in touch with any of our committee members, send me an email and I will get you in touch with them. Thank you for showing interest in our program. Thank you for being here and for considering the program. And if you're not eligible right now to apply, we look forward to seeing your name in a future application process. And just a quick thank you to all the committee members. I know it was a little weird trying to get on the call. Sorry about that, but thank you for being here and to support our program and all of the time you contribute. We really appreciate it. So I guess if there's no questions, my email is going to get flooded in a few days. Does any of the committee members want to add any last thoughts before we close up? All right. Thank you all so much. This will be posted to view on YouTube later.
Thank you.
No problem.